and welcome to the World News Jam right here on DZRJ and RJ TV. My name is Lecain, and I'm joined, as always, to my left would be Lolly Tolentino.
Well, that's me.
How you doing, Lolly Tolentino?
Pretty good, Eric. Beautiful as ever. And what about you? Welcome back.
Yes, I am back now from the United States, here live on DZRJ and RJ TV, telling stories that are going on around the world, answering questions from our viewers for this week. Now, Lolly, you know, I came from the United States a couple days ago, and interesting thing on the flight, on the day that I flew, they diverted the flights because American Airlines can no longer go through Russian airspace.
Well, didn't you know that? There's a war, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I'm surprised, yeah. I just wish they hadn't done it on the day that I flew back, because it puts on an extra 3 hours onto the flight, and the flight is already super long. Wow. So you can actually see how the flight is diverted and goes right down the coast there, adds another extra couple of hours onto the flight, which is already super long. Mm-hmm. But so how have things been going in the middle? You told me this today that you went to church.
Yes, I did.
We need to go to church because the earth is going crazy now. So many things are going on this week. You know, COVID has been giving us some breathing room, but as the real world is coming back, Lolly, you know, we were hoping for smiles and dancing in the street, but it doesn't seem to be going that way. We got so many things going on this week. You know, the Ukraine, Russia, people getting slapped in the face at the Oscars. I don't know, the world just seems to be going insane. But the thing that I'm interested about mostly this week is something that has kind of been left out of the news, which is Sri Lanka. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to tell this story first because it seems to be, it goes along with the theme this week of, I think the earth is going crazy, because this week they declared, in fact, a couple days ago, a national emergency in Sri Lanka. There's like a people's revolution going on there right now. Mm-hmm. They tried to storm the president's residence looking for him. So rather than being ousted from the country by the people, he instituted this kind of martial law. It's giving the military sweeping powers to arrest and imprison people without even charging them. And they're going after protesters. They're deeming them terrorists. Mm-hmm. So in Sri Lanka right now, there is a curfew. And the curfew is there by penalty of imprisonment if you break it. And there's reports of torture going on, especially reporters getting arrested. I mean, there's tear gas and water cannons, people throwing bricks. They're burning military buses and jeeps and motorbikes. There's signs that are posted everywhere that's like, you know, talking to the president, saying, "Lunatic, go home." And the people are just mad because, you know, problems of corruption, you know, the government, it's got its hand in the cookie jar. And so the public's really been suffering there. And people, you know, they get up and they go to work, they make the same amount of money. However, the price of things has skyrocketed, like off the scale skyrocketed. You make your salary, but you cannot afford food. Mm-hmm. And you can't afford the gas to go in your stove. But it doesn't matter because you can't afford the petrol to get to the store anyway, to get the gas or to get the food. So, you know, it's like if you go to the store and it says 10% off, but there in Sri Lanka now, it's like add 30% more to everything because their inflation has gone crazy. They've had to ban, you know, imports now to try and save their currency. I'm just amazed, you know, watching this unfold on the television. And, you know, we have so many other things that are going on. But right now, they can't get medicine. They had to stop surgeries because they can't get anything there. And, you know, the consumables and food and stuff like this, their inflation hit 18.7%.
Wow.
So I'm just surprised. You know, it's like if you go to the store and you want to buy a loaf of bread and the bread is there, it's going to cost you 500 pesos because the inflation's off the scale. So, you know, as I'm watching this unfold, now this is the same thing that's going on right now in Russia. Very similar to Sri Lanka, except, you know, no one's going to rush Putin's house and try and oust him because
Yeah.
You know, if you try to do that, then you're going to get Ruskade in your babuskade.
You know, that's why. Let me make a little point on that. This is one thing that the Philippines should really avoid: war, because nobody will benefit from any war for any reason. Because look at that. Look at started in Ukraine and Russia, and now there's Sri Lanka. Who's next? But we don't want to have next because everybody will be affected and lives. Lives. I don't know what will happen.
I think these things like what is going on right now in the Ukraine. What's going on in Russia right now. I mean, if you have been watching, not what's happening in the Ukraine, but what's happening in Russia. Food prices have shot up like crazy, and there's restrictions now on how much food you can buy because people are hoarding everything. The price of sugar went up 37%, and things like medicine and pasta, and diapers and eggs and bread, milk has double priced. Even that, onions, tomatoes, cabbage, carrots, they're all way up. It takes so much money to make a salad in Russia.
Wow.
I don't know if Russian dressing has gone up, because that's
Maybe.
popular. But it's being dubbed the new normal in Russia. Which I thought was a COVID term, but now it's the new thing there because the ruble has gone off a cliff, and it's worth, if I got this right, 61 thousandths of a euro now. So the ruble is worth almost nothing. And if you saw a Russian ruble on the ground now, it would not pay to pick it up because you're losing money by leaning over to pick up the ruble. It's worth that much now. And you watch what's going on there now. People are standing in long lines to try and get their sugar. Communities are trying to share info about, there's something for sale over here, and they have, they brought in, some sugar over there, so you can go get it. And they've had to ban all exports out of Russia because they just need the stuff. And there's videos of people fighting over, like I said, sugar. It's like the toilet paper scare of 2020.
Oh, yeah.
Except now it's,
There's so many toilet paper now, Eric, so don't worry.
Yeah, I know. Just we finally got our toilet paper. Speaking of toilet paper, this week, Russia has resorted to blackmail. I don't know what that has to do with toilet paper. Russia has been telling Europe this week that it's going to cut the gas. And this is a big issue because Russia is the main supplier of gas in Europe right now. And what Russia is saying is, listen, we'll give you gas, but you have to pay us in rubles. And the statement, if I remember on Russian TV, it said, nobody gives us anything for free, and we're not about to be charitable with anybody. Now, I don't know what that means exactly, but Europe needs to start getting together some rubles because Russia says that you're going to have to pay us in rubles to purchase our gas because the value of rubles is dropping crazy. So I see why they're doing this.
They're actually in my own little thinking of that. Russia is blackmailing the Europeans.
They're blackmailing the Europeans with this whole thing about the rubles. And the Europeans are not going to do it. I mean, they already said that they're not going to do it. Germany is already preparing itself for the day that Putin turns the gas off. They're doing rationing right now and hoarding on their own, getting ready for this because they know that eventually it's going to come to the point where Russia probably will do something like this, and they'll cut the thing, and then they're going to have to wean themselves off the gas, and they're going to have to find alternative methods. But here's the thing. If Germany and Spain and a lot of these places find alternative ways of dealing with this problem with the gas being turned off, I think Russia is hurting itself because once they find these things, then there's no reason to turn the gas back on. And I'm not sure if Putin thought this through. And a lot of economists have said this. It's like once he turns it off, then everybody's going to be scrambled to find another way. But once they find another way, maybe they won't need them as much anymore. And this also goes along with this thing about Russia withdrawing from their attack on the capital, Kiev. So obviously things have not been going as planned in the Russia, especially with the initial attack on the capital. It's stalled. Soldiers are running out of food. They're running out of gas. In fact, they're saying that they're going to back off a little bit as the Russians are saying, listen, we want to start talking peace and negotiating a settlement. But, the Ukrainians are like, yeah. The Russians are telling us that they're going to negotiate a settlement, yada, yada, yada. They're not really going to do this. They think what they're doing is the Russians are pulling back because they need a couple days to breathe because it's not going well. They're losing soldiers left and right.
Yeah, I think Putin did not expect that because probably he thought that he can make this thing happen from his.
I think the first thing, I think they're lying to Putin. But secondly, as they're withdrawing, I mean, we're talking about the Russians are talking about having a peace deal or whatever. Nobody believes that because as they're withdrawing, they're booby trapping buildings. They're booby trapping dead people. So when they go to pick up the dead people, it blows up. So I don't know, but I think the biggest problem right now for the Russian military is that Putin believes everything's going great. Nobody wants to tell him that things are going really badly. And when the NATO military is saying that 15,000 Russian soldiers are dead, that may even be a low number. They're not telling Putin this because they're scared to death to give him the bad news. And I think this is dangerous. British intelligence is saying that Russian soldiers have stopped following orders and they're purposely breaking their own stuff.
I wouldn't be surprised because probably they're already tired of that.
I know.
The order from Putin is not helping. I mean,
they're shooting down their own planes. I mean, the Russians are shooting down their own planes, whether accidentally or whatever. But supposedly they're sabotaging their own stuff.
Yeah, because
and deserting. So and they're just because they're tired of being shot at by Ukrainians are shooting at them from every direction.
Yeah.
This is it's starting to turn into something that we would have never guessed. I mean, we thought this war was going to last a week, and now we're into how many months that they have been there now?
It started February 24, there's already April 3.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to, and I think the Russian people, they're getting sick of the problems in the grocery stores and the problems with, their own country, being able to get things. I mean, right now, the rich people in Russia don't like losing their yachts. Putin's friends lost this week. They lost a $600 million yacht, a $500 million yacht, a $300 million yacht. They're all confiscated. And what's funny about this, which I think is kind of hilarious? You know how they're finding a lot of these yachts? Selfies.
Oh, okay.
People are taking selfies. The families, the kids, the wives, the prostitutes on the boat. The prostitutes are taking pictures of themselves and then posting them. And then they're looking at hey, that's where that boat is. We know where that is. And then they're going and confiscating the boat.
Yeah.
So I think the oligarchs are starting to feel the pinch, the super rich people.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're still rich. As I've said before, when you steal $10 billion and you have to give back $5 billion or you lose $5 billion, you still have $5 billion.
Yeah.
So, they're still, so his buddies are not in any danger of being poor, but they're not happy right now with what's going on because this was not supposed to go this way. And now they're losing their yachts. I'm losing my $600 million yacht. One of the biggest oligarchs right now is in Turkey in the peace deals, trying to negotiate a peace deal. Maybe, bring peace to this, senseless killing and everything. And maybe we can get back our super yachts. But the issue with all these negotiations that they're doing down there in Turkey, is anybody talking to Putin about this? And that seems to be, an issue. Okay, we negotiated something, but is Putin going to go along with it?
That's the problem because Putin has his own mind and he only believes himself that he's great in doing things. So this is what happened. This is the price that he's getting right now.
The oligarchs are hoping that Putin will help them out. But speaking of people that are asking Putin to help them out, one of the things that's been in the news this week a lot, and then we'll get to some questions here, is the good old President Trump the former president of the United States, is asking Putin for favors this week. And this week he asked Putin to give him some dirt on the current president, Joe Biden. Now, I just have to say, we're in the middle of a world conflict involving a war, and we have a former U.S. president that has reached out to the enemy to get some good gossip on the current president.
Oh my God.
There was never another guy like Trump. Anyway, Trump, what he's saying is, if you've heard about this story, that Moscow's mayor's wife gave the Bidens $3.5 million, and he wishes that right now, in the middle of this global conflict, that Putin would take some time away from his busy schedule to share some of this juicy gossip on Joe Biden. So far, we have not heard very much from Putin on this subject, but Trump, his thinking is, what he said on television this week, is that Putin is not happy with the U.S. right now, and so it might be a good time for Putin to let us in on what he knows about the Bidens. So, this comes, some old story really about Trump talking about Biden's son, Hunter Biden, who was engaged in business practices with some Russian oligarchs. And here's what I think Trump is jealous because Trump wants so bad to be in shady businesses with the Russian oligarchs. And they just the Russian oligarchs are like, nah, I don't think so.
Well,
we're not going to.
What about you, Eric? You want to make business with Putin now or
with
Trump?
Putin? I don't know. It depends on how much money I would make out of it. But no, I'm just kidding. But speaking of Republicans, I'm trying to get to a lot of questions that people have been talking to me about all week. Speaking of Republicans, in the United States, the Republicans are just out of their minds. This young congressman this week dropped a bomb, not a Russian bomb, but a bomb on us this week. I know that we've been talking about the craziness that's going on in the Republican Party in the United States. And, a lot of Filipinos ask me questions because I think it's kind of funny sometimes. We talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene a lot. She's the woman that believes that the Jews have a satellite up in space that shoots lasers to kill Republicans. Maybe, she's always got something every week, something weird that comes out. But there's a new guy. There's a new guy that has emerged this week that's just as weird as Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't know how much of this is true, but this young Republican from North Carolina,
oh my
of course,
God,
is my home state.
Your neighbor, probably.
He's made headlines this week. First thing, he made headlines before. We'd actually talked about him, I think, very short amount of time on the show before, because he was saying that the president of the Ukraine was a thug, and the government of Ukraine was incredibly evil, whatever. But this week, he topped everything by saying that he's been in Congress, and several times in Congress, he's been invited by his friends in Congress to sexual parties where congressmen have sex with others at the party and snort cocaine.
Oh, my God.
I don't know why this is such a big news item, but anyway, we know that his friends are not Democrats. So his friends are definitely other Republicans. Now, the Republicans are the conservative religious party in the United States. That homosexuality is a disease, that sort of thing. But the interesting thing I find about this story, and you might find interesting too, is the average age of a Republican in Congress is 75.
75 years old?
So that would mean that these 75-year-olds are in these sex, drug orgies.
Oh, my God. I think they're too old to do that.
I don't know. So I don't know. Not. I have a problem believing some of the stuff that this guy says. But anyway, it's the same Republican Party where their leader is, asking United States' biggest enemy for dirt on the current president.
Oh, wow.
So that is the interesting news that's going on this week. So what kind of questions? Now, we go right, this is the point in our show. We go to questions that come from our viewers that are asking what is interesting on their mind of things that are going on around the world. So Lolly Tolentino, what are our viewers asking us this week?
Okay, Eric, that we have a lot of questions every week. So the first question we have is from Miguel of Pasig. Ukraine claims Russia may be regrouping in Belarus. What do you think will happen?
Okay. All right. So, this is a very big story this week because, Russia quasi pulled back from Kiev and, many of them went to Belarus, which is the last friendly country to Russia now, I think. Now, the Russians says that they are pulling back, but the Ukrainians are seeing it differently. They surmise that the Russians are falling back to figure out a different plan of attack, because obviously the first plan of attack did not work. The original idea of, that Russia said, we are not invading, and then they invaded. And hopefully everyone was supposed to be so shocked that they would just lay down their weapons and join the Russian side, and that did not happen. So the Russians realized, instead of just sitting there and getting knocked off one by these Ukrainian snipers, they went back to a friendly territory to rethink this thing through and figure out a different way to get around this. And that's what a lot of people believe. Many believe that they're going back because they need to make repairs. And if they are going to take the crown jewel, which is the city capital there, that's the only way that they're going to get the Ukrainians to fall. But, Lala, here's the thing. What if they take Kiev? This is what I don't understand. Then what? So, you walk out into the park and you beat up the weakest kid on the playground. Who's going to cheer you on? Maybe your one friend, Belarus. But
maybe.
Yeah, nobody's going to want to be your friend anymore. You just beat up the weakest kid. Even the Chinese kids, they don't want to be your friend. So I just wonder, once they do this, once they figure out how to take the capital, and they take the capital, then what? Okay, so you took the capital. There's 44 million people in Ukraine.
Wow.
They're not going to be greeting you in open arms.
No.
So how are they going to get anywhere after they do this?
Well, let's figure it out.
This is one of the things that I don't know. I'm trying to figure out is, what is, once they get it, once they get the capital, nobody's going to fall in line. Nobody's going to be like, hey, welcome, we're going to be Russians now. No. Obviously, the Ukrainians are a very proud people, and they're going to fight forever.
Yeah.
You can't fight 44 million people. There's grandmothers out there throwing bottles of gasoline at the tanks.
Yeah. You know what? They have they cooperate with each other. They're helping, the government to fight for their country. And this is amazing. And to me, it's like, wow. You can see how, Ukrainian are.
I am absolutely amazed by the people of Ukraine, that they are working as such a unit. I don't know where. I know there's people in the southern region that are pro-Russia, but in general, they hate the Russians, and they will never give up. And I think this is something that they lied to Putin. Putin's people, his intelligence people, either got the information wrong or they just lied to him because they knew that's not what he wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And so now they're in this. They're in this because of, and I believe this is true, misinformation by the intelligence in Russia, saying that the Ukrainians were just going to lay down their arms and welcome the Russians. And that did not happen, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah, because probably those, the people, behind or beside Putin is already tired of him. So probably that's why they're doing this. So instead of because they cannot do anything. So what I have to do is to do something behind his back.
I know.
I think this is this is just my feeling.
That's what I think.
Anyway, let's move forward, Eric.
Tell Putin the truth.
Yes. Let's go to Minda of Manila, maybe your neighbor. What do you think of the incident in Oscar Awards night? Do you think Will Smith slapped Chris Rock after what he said about his wife? So, what do you think of this? This is a big issue.
I forgot about this. I started to talk about it earlier, and then I forgot. Yeah, this was clearly the biggest story of the week. Unless you've been living under a rock, or you've never watched the news, this story, it's just too crazy. In case you don't know, during the Oscars award, the ceremony, comedian Chris Rock was on stage presenting the award for Best Documentary, which I think is kind of odd anyway, if you know who Chris Rock is. But anyway, he was telling jokes. That's what Chris Rock does. He tells jokes. And sitting in the front row was Will Smith, super amazing star who's about to win the Best Actor award, along with his kind of weird, strange wife, Jade Pinkett Smith. Anyway, she's bald. And I just assumed that she shaved her head because that's something that she would do. She's kind of a weird person. I just assumed that's, she was in some role or something, whatever. It turns out she has alopecia, which, is an immunity disorder, and it causes baldness or it causes patchiness. So a lot of times they will shave their head because they have patchy things. It's not a life-threatening disease, but, it is a condition. So Chris said, I can't wait to see you in the next G.I. Jane movie, because in G.I. Jane, the main character shaves her head. It's a mild joke. Anyway, Will Smith laughed. He laughed, but his wife didn't. And she kind of looked disgusted. And, he looked at her and she looked at him, and he was kind of laughing. And then he's like, oh, crap. So he decided to take upon himself to go up on stage and slap Chris Rock in the face really hard. I mean, it was it wasn't just so. And then he proceeded to sit back down and yell obscenities at Chris Rock. Keep your blah 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 out of the effing blah blah blah. So everybody in the place was like, WTF? Is this a setup? That's what I thought. I thought like this was part of the act. Like there was something funny coming, and then nothing funny happened. And Chris Rock continued on, did the thing, talked about the award, gave the award, and everybody was like, wow, this is really weird. To make things even weirder, the Academy came over and asked him to leave. He went up and assaulted somebody. They asked him, he wouldn't leave. So then the show continued on. Everybody's a little uncomfortable, and then he won Best Actor. So he went up on stage and he gave this super long speech. He's crying and everything. It was very dramatic. And afterwards, it was just so weird. Everybody was kind of in shock. Okay, fine. It was just another bizarre. But after the Academy Award, nobody's talking about who won. We're talking about the slap.
Yeah.
So the next day, this thing turned out to be big because there was a barrage of memes and everything about, everybody had an opinion about this. So it was just the biggest story of the week. Because like I said, no one remembers anybody who won at the Academy Awards. They just remember that Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. And after this was all over, and you can comment on this, Will made a very crafted speech where he apologized to everybody. And the Academy is to discuss about kicking him out of the Academy. But before they could kick him out, Will Smith, yesterday, he quit. He quit the Academy. And the question is, they may take his Oscar back. But the question I wanted to ask you, Lolly Tolentino, is, can you get so big, you become such a giant star, that you can do anything you want and get away with it?
Well, my friends, we were talking about this, scenario. So we were just thinking maybe the guy gets really upset because his wife is involved. Probably he got hurt, and he forgot everything. That he is a big star, that he should not do this. Probably he just let it go. But this is an insult, and this is open. I mean, a lot of people, the whole world is watching. And I don't know, Eric, if you have a wife and somebody is doing that to your wife, what would you feel? So
Wasn't that,
well, yeah, I
mean, I have to say, I've heard Chris Rock rip on people. Comedians are.
yeah.
The thing that I think is the question that we should be asking is, first thing, if anybody else had walked up on stage and slapped Chris Rock, they would have had him on handcuffs and drug him out of the place. I mean, I guarantee if it was not Will Smith, they would have, pulled him out by his bootstraps out of the place. Do you get to be such a big star, which you then, you have such an ego that nothing matters. You can do anything you want. And that's what, Will Smith got to that point at that moment. Well, listen, I can do anything. I'm Will Smith. I'm about to win, the Academy Award for Best Actor. I can walk up on stage and hit anybody I want.
Nah.
I mean, that's what a lot of people are saying about it, because right now Will Smith is in trouble. I mean, everybody is saying, really bad stuff about him because this was, in a way, this was really bad. It looks like that's exactly what it looks like. Like he is a star that is just, his ego is so big, he feels like he's so entitled he can go up and do anything he wants.
Well, I don't know what to say about that, but you know what? I think maybe this is just our, we're Filipinos talking about it. And maybe the guy is, I don't know, I mean, he got so affected probably that moment. Maybe he did not, that moment it was so serious for him.
I mean, he was laughing at the joke.
Yeah,
he was
maybe,
laughing at the
yeah.
joke until he looked at her. And then
That's
no.
why he got hurt probably. Like, oh my God.
He's like-
Maybe he felt that, my wife is, offended or whatever. So maybe, I don't know. Was he drunk? I don't know. Was he all of them in drugs or something?
I don't think
because
so.
these Hollywood people are into
I
something.
know, I don't know. Maybe he was at one of those Republican sex cocaine parties that we were talking about earlier.
All right.
I
okay.
don't know. Anyway,
Let's jump into another showbiz.
who can tell what's in his mind? Anyway, what's our next
All right, let's go to
question?
George of Quezon City. Bruce Willis. Wow. Step away from showbiz because of Apisha.
Yeah.
How bad is that? Serious one?
I mean, I'm assuming this is very serious. I mean, he's stepping away from multi-million-dollar
Yeah,
projects. This disorder, in case you don't know what it does, it affects the language center of the brain. So if you're an actor, all of a sudden you don't have the ability to understand or express speech. I mean, I can imagine if you're an actor, this must be a huge problem. And Willis, he plays high action characters, Die Hard, Armageddon. So big Hollywood stars now are coming out and sending all kinds of condolences. He's not dead, but obviously this must be very, very serious for him to have to, in the middle of all his projects, just retire.
Yeah. Well, that is really sad to hear that somebody like Bruce Willis.
I
He's
know.
also one of my favorite guy. I mean, I watched a lot of his movies before.
I love Bruce Willis. Die Hard.
But what can I do?
John McClane. We all wanted to be John McClane.
Okay. Now let's go to Danny of Makati. What do you think is the purpose of Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov visited China and India during the Ukraine war?
All right, yeah. Okay, so these two countries are under extreme pressure to condemn this attack, this unprovoked attack on a peaceful nation. China and India are two of the last countries that are left that have not publicly gone after Russia. And a lot of this might have to do with the possible future deals with Russia. So Lavrov, who, we know him very well from the Trump time, he says this meeting that he had with China and India is not about the Ukraine situation. Come on. I mean, this is a big time eye roll here. China and India are two of the countries that abstained from voting at the UN, demanding that Russia leave Ukraine. And China's taken this opportunity to take some pot shots at the United States, saying it's the fault of the United States while we're even in this war. So I think, I think it's time for Russia to try and make allies. And because right now they're alone in the world, except for Belarus. Who cares about Belarus? But this is a chance to make friends with China, a superpower, and utilize that alliance. And getting China on the same table, the same side as you, China's not going to come out and say, and back Russia, but as long as they don't go up against them. And India, who is kind of an enemy of China, what a great time to become friends with both of those people. If I'm Russia, this is the best time because, hey, the West hates Russia right now. The West hates China, kind of. So this is a good time for Russia believes that they can negotiate this alliance with China, and it's going to be really good for them.
Yeah. So maybe, they were doing another tactics, which is sending that guy to, China.
He's such a creepy guy.
Yeah, well,
Lavrov.
What?
But yes. Oh no, we're not talking about the Ukrainian situation. Okay, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Why else are you going there? Why would Russia ever want to come up with an alliance with India? And I think that right now right now they need to make any friend they can. And so I think that that's part of the reason why they had this meeting. And, this is what is going to be, the Americans and the Europeans are watching them very carefully about this alliance with China.
Okay. I mean, because, since China is really big now, so everybody want to make
They
friends
got a
with.
lot of people.
I know, billions. Anyway, let's go. Let's go now to Ingrid of Las Piñas. I'm sure you're gonna like this question. What can you comment on Qantas Airlines' latest ultra long haul flight to U.S. Melbourne to Dallas? I think this is 17 hours, right? 17 hours flight.
Yeah, I
Then
heard it.
can you share your personal experience when it comes to flying?
That's kind of funny. This was in the news this week about this flight. Now, Qantas had a 20-hour flight before, but they had to scrap it during COVID. They're constantly trying to see how long they can fly, how far they can get, and who can have the longest commercial flight. And Qantas keeps trying. This week they have a 17-hour flight from Australia to Dallas. And the Kiwis, they have a flight from New Zealand to New York that's coming up soon, 17 hours and 35 minutes. Singapore has a direct flight, 18-hour flight from Singapore to New York. How long can we keep, how much gas can we put in these planes? And how long can a person be on a plane?
Yeah, for 18 hours straight?
Yeah, I was just on a plane for 16 hours, so I'm, pretty close. What's an interesting story this week, and this is really not related to this, but they flew a plane for, I think, 3 hours, a jet on cooking oil. That was this week. The story came out that they have finally, there's been a lot of small jets, small personal planes where they put cooking oil in it. That fry
Cooking
eggs and so
oil?
forth, and they put it in a plane and they fly the plane. Now they did it with a commercial jet. They flew for 3 hours.
Oh.
With a jet that was on a some kind of special formula made out of cooking oil. Anyway, I know it's not related, but it's pretty cool. But
Yeah.
I think this is one of the things that direct flights, no more stopping in the middle. How can I get from one city to frickin' the other side of the world? And how long can people last on a plane?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just computing. I get with 3 hours flight, I get bored. How much is? I mean, what about 17
18-hour
hours?
flight.
18 flight? Oh my God! What will I
18-hour
do
flight.
inside the plane for 18 hours?
And you need to have a lot of almonds.
Oh my God! Yeah, yeah.
So we will see. I mean, these things are going to continue to get bigger and bigger and go longer and farther. So.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Mileto Parañaque. Do you believe Russia will reduce military operation around Kiev following talks with Ukraine?
Okay, I mean, I just like the Ukrainians. I don't believe these talks are serious. Honestly, I don't believe. I think the Ukrainians, if the Ukrainians do everything that the Russian demands, now let's go through this. So what are the Russians wanting? They cannot join NATO. They have to recognize Crimea as part of Russia. They have to recognize the independence of those two eastern cities that Russia has claimed to be independent. They have to demilitarize. They have to denazification. What the heck is that? I mean, denazification means that the government has to step down. So I think if Ukraine just did all those things, which they're not, by the way, but if they did all those things, I still don't think the Russians would go home. I mean, now, supposedly the talks are going well, but the big question is, here again, okay, the talks may be going great, but is Putin going to be happy with what they work out? And they negotiate some kind of middle ground? I mean, is he going to be okay with that? And I don't think that, I don't even know if they're updating him. I mean, can Ukraine become a neutral country? That's what Russia wants. They demand that they become a neutral country. And that sounds great. But if they become a neutral country, then they have no security. That means no deal with the EU and no deal with the U.S. And right now, Putin doesn't even acknowledge that the Ukraine is a country. So what if they make a deal? They make a deal and Ukraine becomes neutral. And then Putin breaks the deal. Who's there to enforce it? And is the U.S. going to be there to enforce this binding agreement? So let's say that's true. I mean, this is what we're talking about. I mean, what are they going to do to reduce military operations? Are they going to do anything? So let's say they make a deal. Then what happens if Trump becomes president? And Putin's like, okay, well, I'll just break the deal because I know that Trump is not going to fight me. Trump did everything he could to end NATO. So I think the only people that can enforce any kind of deal is the U.S. The U.S. and the EU together are the only ones that are going to be able to force Putin to do any kind of deal and play by the rule. And then there's Crimea. And I don't think the current government of Ukraine is ever going to say that Crimea is part of Russia. Mm-hmm. And that's the sticky point. They're never going to do that. And Russia's saying, well, we're not going to do this unless you say that Crimea is theirs. They're not going to do that because then Russia's going to piece off Ukraine one piece at a time, which is what they're doing down in the Eastern Bloc. Mm-hmm. The Eastern Bloc of the country, they're taking pieces of Ukraine and cutting them off. And I think that is I don't think that they are ever going to be able to negotiate this thing to the point of what Putin is going to be satisfied with.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, how long are they going to do this?
I mean, this thing could go on for a long time. It really could.
I hope they will stop. And let's make make their country like Finland, happy place, happy.
Listen to Lolly Tolentino, Mr. Putin.
Yes.
Put in a call to Lolly. Have a talk.
Yes, let's.
Maybe we can negotiate something right here on DZRJ and RJ TV.
Yes, let's go to Gigi of Batangas. April 1, 2001, Netherlands became the first country to allow same-sex marriage. How many other countries follow?
Yeah, this was big news this week. This is the 20th anniversary of gay marriage. Mm-hmm. First became legal in the world. And 30 countries now have same-sex marriage because Chile and Switzerland just passed a law to allow it. And, for me, I mean, the big thing here is, gay marriage is about financial and legal union. I know that there's a religious issue here, but if a male and a female can benefit financially from a civil union, why can't a male and a male or a female and a female? Mm-hmm. And I understand, the biggest issue in countries is that many religions say that you can't have a union, and many countries are not going to fall behind these 30 countries. There's a lot of Asian countries that are not, a lot of African countries that are definitely not, because it's not in the law of their God. So, but in countries where there are court systems, they have to do it. I mean, they have to do it, or there's just going to be lawsuits all over the place, especially in Europe and America and in South America. Mm-hmm. In South America, many countries in South America now have gay marriage. So, since God is not here to ask us in person, we have to rely on the courts for these kind of things. And I think, very soon, Asia's going to start. Taiwan, I believe Taiwan already has gay marriage. So, and I think they've talked about it. I think even Duterte said, if it came to him, he would probably say, okay.
Well, I don't know, but
it's a tough subject.
Yeah, religious. A country will not allow that because they always say there are only two people who should get married, male and female.
I mean. I don't know what. I don't know what.
Yeah, this is a very tough, a subject actually because you and I will be criticized because the gay community will hate us for saying things like that. But it depends on the country actually. So that's why some people they go to other countries to marry.
Here's what I think they should do, especially in a place like the Philippines: change the name. Change the name to something else. Don't call it marriage. Call it legal union or something. Because I do think it is unfair that gay couples cannot have the same legal union as a non-gay couple or a regular, I don't want to say regular couple, straight couple. So, if there's a religious connotation, take out the word marriage. And I've said this before, I believe that is the way to do this because if you look at it, it really is not fair that if two males are living together, they're cohabitating together, they share everything together, and let's say they grow old together, and let's say one of them gets sick or one of them dies. Mm-hmm. So, who should be the one to be able to take care of him? And you say, well, you're not a family member. and he can't be a family member because he can't get married. So he's basically a stranger. He can't, he's lived with him his whole life, and then all of a sudden at the very end, he can't have any part of his life because the one guy gets older and sick. And I think, this is one of the issues that has, and then you get in the issue of children. If one of the part of the couple has children, can they adopt the child and they raise the child together? And why can a gay couple have the same legal, boundaries as a straight couple, but let's just not call it a religious marriage, because that's the problem that we have is religion. So they share the same legal connotations, but just not the religious connotations of it.
Yeah, I kind of agree on that. Make it, just on the legal side, not on the religious side, because, the religious people will not agree on that. Because nobody, I don't know.
Even in the United States,
it's a big issue.
It's a big issue in the United States. Now, gay marriage is legal in the United States, but not in every state. So it's up to the state on whether they allow it or not. Because there's some states that are never going to allow it, ever.
See, look at that.
Yeah, it's true. So I don't, I just, so of course people just get in their car and they just drive to another state and they just get married and then come back.
Yeah, I know.
But I believe, that's what I believe, because, you have the issue, which the Catholic Church is never going to go for this.
No.
They are never, ever going to say legally, we will marry you in our church and it will be legal. It's just never going to work. So I think the only way they're going to be able to do that is to give, in places like the Philippines, they're going to have to come up with a law that gives, a gay couple that cohabitates together some kind of legal precedence to make it even, but just not call it marriage.
Oh, well.
Ooh, that's a tightrope to walk on there.
I know. All right, let's go now to the Philippines. This is from Andy of Quezon City. President Duterte said he is not supporting or maybe not endorsing any presidential aspirant. He is neutral. Do you believe him? Your opinion. We're talking here about opinion again.
I know. We should get used to this sort of thing by now. Duterte, he's fun. He is fun to watch. He's fun to listen to talk to him. He knows this thing, is leaning one way, but it's not a lock. And he said some things about the current guy, but he's backed off a lot because he knows this thing is leaning one way. But he also knows that a lot of these polls that are coming out are paid for by the guy who's in the lead. So, the Marcos campaign is paying for a lot of these polls to come out that says that he's in the lead. All right, we all know this. Duterte knows this. So, people have surmised that, he'll go whichever way the wind blows because he's Duterte. And his daughter is running. So, of course, he's going to back his daughter. And I'm sure Duterte has not ruled out the possibility, no matter how remote, that it could be a Lenny-Sarah ending. Now, a lot of people's face goes, cockeyed, whatever, but it's not impossible that this could happen. So I don't think Duterte's going to open his mouth just yet. I think he's going to wait till the very end or never.
Well, we will only know the last minute probably if he is going to endorse or not. Because, for me, he just have to be neutral, I think. And this is my personal opinion. Because, I can see, I've been talking to a lot of people, who are they going to vote? Why are they going to vote for that person? And I know your friends are for the other side, and I know...
I have people literally split down the middle. My friends in the Philippines are... I don't have a lot of friends for Lacson and Isco and
forget
Pacquiao.
About those. Yeah, forget about those. The two.
Literally for the Marcos Lenny ticket, literally it's like a 50-50 split. I have really good friends on both sides. I'm surprised. And today I had conversations with both sides. I had some conversation with somebody this morning I do the usual thing where I say, well, what about this and what about that and what about that, and they just blindly like, oh no, I don't believe any of the history of the Philippines. And then on the other side, I talk to somebody else, and they're like, I can't believe what the people of the Philippines are doing, which is the same way. When I was in the United States, this is a big issue in the United States for Filipinos. I know a lot of Filipinos in the United States, and I was there and I was talking to them, and a lot of them, are they can't understand what's going on here. And it's true from the outside looking in. It does look a little, crazy. But I don't think, speaking and I'll let you comment here, about the Duterte thing. I don't think that the people from the Marcos campaign are just incredibly smart. They are never going to let him. The only way that this thing is going to change. Now, here we go. This is opinion stuff. The only way I think this thing is going to change is he would have to show up to a debate. He is not going to debate Lenny. There is no way they're going to let that happen. They are never going to let him into any kind of interview where he's going to have to answer hard questions about certain things unless the questions are already preset for him. They are never going. They are going to. The next 30 days, they're going to try so hard not to make a mistake. I don't think they're trying to get more people to vote for him. They just want to keep the people that they've got. And right now, it's up to the other candidates to get some of those people to come over to their side. And so I think Bong Bong knows that even if he loses 20% or 30%, he can still win.
Well, the truth of the matter is, with all the things that probably you've been hearing from the U.S. and from your friends from here, here in the Philippines, that because there's a lot of issues that we discuss, and I always follow and read about a lot of things, and I always I try to get information from different people, different source, and because I'm a Filipino, and I live in this country ever since how many years of my life. I experienced a lot, and because I don't want to be bashed, because the opinion that I'm going to give, they may not like it, and I don't want to be a part of the the campaign of other party, and which is the thing that we always, I just came from the church today, even our pastor says we all have to be like neutral. Because, there's a lot of people already fighting over this election, and this is not good. Yeah. That's why it's better to shut up. Better to be quiet with your candidates, because, if I'm going to listen to the, what do you call this, interview of the different, aspirant, oh my God, I was looking at what? So this is not,
Yeah, when you look at the newspaper articles that are coming out outside this country, the Philippines looks like a bunch of fools. The things that they are saying about the Philippines, how that they have completely changed history, and that, that they've been able to use. This thing that came out in Hong Kong 2 days ago was an incredible article. I couldn't even believe what I was reading. And this is the kind of thing, like I said, the question was, is Duterte going to support somebody? And I think Duterte is looking at all these things, and he's just sitting back and he's like, hey, you know what? It's better to say nothing right now and just wait and see how this thing plays out, because even though it looks like it's over, it's not a lock perfectly. And I think that's part of what he's looking at and what a lot of people are looking at. Now, I know that we are out of time. We always get these good discussions, Lolly Tolentino. We love these discussions, and then we run out of time. But I think that the questions that we had this week were absolutely fabulous. I love that they come up with these interesting topics that I would have never even thought about talking about. But we're going to be back next week with more interesting stuff, Lolly. Some of the, because the election's coming up soon, so we're going to be talking about it even more, I'm sure. But for right now, for me, Eric Lecain, and Lolly Tolentino here on the World News Jam on DZRJ and RJTV. We will be back again next week, so please tune in, and everybody be safe out there. We'll see you then.
The views and comments of the hosts and guests are not